Memeyori, spirits of the digital age, beings born from our collected consciousness, the new sphere, given form and function through the power of our shared beliefs and interactions. They are not gods in the traditional sense, but rather living manifestations of ideas, jokes, and cultural touchstones that have gained enough emotional energy to break free from the conceptual realm and manifest in our world. Allow me to explain the theory further. First, there was the geosphere, the literal physical Earth. Rock, metal, magma, tectonic plates, minerals. This is the inert, material foundation of everything. It is the hardware that ultimately hosts all other layers. Without the geosphere, none of the others could exist. Then, from the geosphere emerged the biosphere, the layer of living biological organisms. Life is the first great self-replicating, self-organizing system on the planet. Humans are, of course, part of the biosphere. Once the biosphere evolves a species capable of symbolic language, reflection, and culture, a new global layer emerges, the collective mind of humanity. The new sphere is the sum total of all human ideas, beliefs, knowledge, myths, philosophies, and emotions. It is not material, but it rides on top of biological brains and their cultural products. Memeyori are condensed pieces that have achieved autonomy and can cross over into reality through digital gateways. Memes, in the Dawkins sense, live and evolve primarily in the infosphere, the global layer of recorded and transmissible information. You could say this is the nervous system or circulatory system of the new sphere. It is the substrate that allows ideas to replicate at light speed, mutate, and spread virally across the entire planet and potentially beyond. The cybersphere is a subset or intensified region of the infosphere that specifically refers to the fully digital, online, always-on environment created by the internet, social media, image boards, forums, streaming platforms, etc. It is the hyper-accelerated, hyper-connected zone where memes are born, mutate thousands of times a day, and achieve escape velocity fastest. The cybersphere is the womb where most Memeyori are conceived and born in the modern era, because it is the region of the infosphere where human attention, emotion, and belief are most densely concentrated and rapidly cycled. The base term for Memeyori, meme, originates from Dawkins' 1976 coinage, an idea, behavior, or style that spreads by imitation, a unit of cultural information. The suffix yori is a Japanese particle meaning from, by, through, or in accordance with. It's also present in words like yorishiro, a vessel or medium through which spirits manifest. So, memeyori can literally mean from meme, by meme, or more poetically, that which comes through the meme. I have spent over a decade studying their nature, their hierarchies, their behaviors. The church believes they are corrupted echoes of the divine emanation, while the tech worshippers see them as tools or the next stage of evolution. Both views are simplistic. Memeyori are far more complex than either gives them credit for. They have desires, fears, and motivations that often mirror, sometimes grotesquely, the very human psychology that gave them birth. Many Memeyori, particularly the lower-rank common and uncommon ones, seem almost primal in their drives. The Cheems desires food, comfort, and attention. The Wojak craves validation, yet is resigned to disappointment. The Putty Bloop simply wishes to replicate its existence ad infinitum. They are simple impulses given form, but as their rarity and power increase, so does their complexity. Take the GigaChad. It is more than just peak physical masculinity. It is an ideal, a concept so potent it warps reality around itself to conform to its narrative of superiority. Its strength comes not just from muscle, but from the collective belief in its perfection. It feeds on admiration, envy, and aspiration. Similarly, Galbala, the plague girl, isn't just a vector of disease. She is the living embodiment of how beauty can conceal, even normalize, devastation. She spreads her influence through affection, through love for something that will ultimately destroy you. Terrifyingly efficient. Now, consider the Archons. These are not mere spirits. They are fundamental forces, meta-memes, shaping our reality. Discordia represents entropy and the chaotic beauty of dissonance. She doesn't destroy. She realigns reality to a frequency that breaks current systems, exposing their inherent flaws. Vulcanus is her antithesis. Order, structure, the righteous fire of creation and destruction in service of perfection through repetition. He is the Smith god of the digital age. Our data on Archons is limited, but I speculate they are the final evolution of Memeyori. The race of a Memeyori is really their origin story. Viral entities are self-replicating. Their core narrative is "spread me," making them the internet's version of an infectious disease. Comfy ones spread through positive emotional reinforcement, the digital equivalent of a warm blanket. Copy pastas are hard-coded for repetition, their very being a literal block of text. Variants are malleable, shaped by the endless reinterpretations of their base image. Remixes are collisions, born from two or more ideas being mashed together into a new, unstable whole. Enigmas are, as the name implies, narratively opaque. They operate on logic we struggle to parse because their origin is a pure feeling, a specific shade of melancholy or mania that doesn't translate into a simple image macro. And Archons, they are not born. They are. They are the settings, the genre conventions, the very operating system of reality made manifest. They don't follow memes, they dictate the terms of their existence. As for the types, let's call them expressive modalities, how their narrative forces manifest. Flame is passion, loud and destructive transformation. Aqua is the flow of information, currents of mood, the deep, cold pressure of the collective id. Nature is growth, cycles of creation. Decay is entropy and corruption, the beautiful rot. Matter is the physical anchor, the object itself, independent of the story. Force is direct, physical intervention. Spark is creativity, sudden inspiration, the aha moment. Data is the realm of logic, systems, and patterns. Shadow is the hidden, the subconscious, the things we dare not speak aloud. Spirit is pure emotion, faith, belief in the unprovable. The last one, ether, is the most insidious. It's the medium itself, the fabric of the internet made animate. An ether-type Memeyori doesn't do things, it happens to the world around it. Its presence subtly rewires causality. Both Memeyori and Archons have 6 attributes we measure them by, on an exponential scale from 1 to 20. An attribute of 1 is debilitating, 2 is human average, 5 is peak human, 8 is superhuman, and 10 is the peak of what's naturally possible. Beyond that, you're into the realm of gods, monsters, and unnatural beings. Strength determines physical power, from the ability to break things to the potency of physical attacks, to how much it can carry, and it even adds to their stamina. Endurance determines resilience and stamina, from the ability to withstand damage to how long you can fight, to resistance to environmental hazards. IQ determines logic and reasoning, from hacking computers to solving puzzles to forming the medic attacks, to predicting their enemies' moves and landing hits. Wit determines cunning and agility of mind, from crafting convincing lies to resisting the medic attacks, and it gives them the insight needed to ease mental pain. Speed determines physical quickness, from running fast to getting the first strike to dodging attacks. Aura determines presence and willpower, from intimidating others to leading others, to their chance of landing a devastating blow. Aura, ah yes, the sparkly voodoo attribute. the one the bean counters in the ethics department get the most nervous about. Determines presence and willpower. A deliberate oversimplification, of course. A marketing term. Aura is the resonance field, the gravitational pull of an entity's narrative on the surrounding conceptual space. It's the boss music effect. A low aura creature like a Wojak or a Cheems, you can walk right up to it. Their narrative is weak, passive. They absorb reality, they don't bend it. But a Giga Chad? The world changes around him. The wind seems to tousle his hair even indoors. Mirrors reflect him at just the right angle. He radiates correctness. His aura actively warps probability to favor his story. He's not just strong, the universe conspires to make him look strong. The core truth of Memeyori is their power is a reflection of our own attention. The more we engage with them, the stronger they become. This is why I have labored to perfect the meme fusion system. We can't just fight them, we must understand them, harness them, and ultimately, control the narrative flow. That is how one truly shapes the future. Not by wielding a bigger hammer, but by writing the story that convinces everyone your hammer is the only one that matters. And this brings me to the avaricious little secret at the heart of my research. Harnessing Memeyori isn't about capturing them in balls or signing contracts. That's for children and fantasy novelists. True control requires something far more invasive and elegant. We call it structural narrative parasitism. You see, a Memeyori's form and function are defined by its core narrative. To change them is to attempt to convince the internet's collective subconscious that chaos is actually order, a fool's errand. But if you can attach a subordinate narrative to their core, a symbiotic story that leeches off their power while subtly altering its expression, that, my dear, is power. This is the secret to how mean wizards have controlled these entities throughout history. Take the Church of the Heavenly Sun. They don't ban skibbity toilets. No, that's repression, which only feeds their virality. Instead, they funded a meme campaign depicting the skibbity heads singing hymns and flushing themselves as a form of baptism. A laughable, ineffective piece of propaganda on its own, but attached to the viral core of the original, it acts as a limiter, a governor on a runaway engine. It creates a thematic dissonance, an internal conflict that weakens the entity's primary function and makes it more susceptible to control. They essentially weaponized cringe. Of course, there are far more direct applications. Meme fusion, as it's commonly understood, is a crude, explosive process. Two powerful spirits are smashed together, the weak devouring the strong, or both annihilating each other in a burst of chaotic data. My process is more akin to grafting. We don't smash them together. We introduce a carefully cultured narrative parasite. This little fellow is the recipient, a perfect blank slate. We took him from a suspect comment section. He was complaining about gatekeeping, ironically enough. Now, watch. We will introduce the donor spirit. The putty directive is beautifully simple, a near-perfect expression of linguistic decay, a perfect foundation parasite. The process involves bombarding the target with conflicting data streams until the core narrative becomes permeable. Once that shield is breached, the donor's harmonic imprint can be grafted directly onto the target's conceptual core. It's, what's the polite term? Upsetting. The sounds can be expressive, but the results? The results are magnificent. Observe. A common variant infused with the viral, linguistic destructive properties of another common. It won't gain the Putty Bloop's amorphous form, but its own being will be altered, rewritten. See? A complete success. The Wojak evolved into NPC with integrated copy-pasta traits. Its spirit is now composed of disappointment and meaningless repetition. The perfect foot soldier for a modern political campaign. My funding proposals have been very well received, and this is merely the lowest tier. Imagine what one could achieve by grafting the regenerative resilience of a Giga-Chad onto a Galbola, creating a plague that cannot be fought or tired. Or by fusing the narrative indomitability of Dracula with the malicious skepticism of a skeptic owl. You would have an entity that could not only turn into a bat, but would convince you that your windows were already open while it did it. The applications for social control, market manipulation, and military intervention are, frankly, unlimited. The real war will not be fought with armies or legislation. It will be fought in comment sections. And the historians of the future will write of the age where nations were felled not by invasion, but by a sufficiently potent insult. This is truly my greatest scientific innovation to date. Now, evolution. The great pipe dream of every 2-bit meme wizard and bedroom philosopher. They think it's about affinity, about love, about friendship. How droll. It's about narrative dominance. Forming a bond doesn't create evolution. It simply provides a stable framework for a more potent narrative to be grafted on. The summoner, or master, is nothing more than a living anchor point, a fleshy IP address that the entity trusts. Once that trust is established, it will accept a deeper rewriting of its core being. Let's take our frog friend, for instance. He's a comfy type, aligned with Aqua. Simple desires. Get comfy, find friends, vibe. His eventual evolution into a frog whiz isn't some magical coming of age. It's an environmental trigger. The frog friend is saturated in enough wisdom, ancient knowledge, and magical resonance narratives. The steady stream of images showing him reading dusty tomes, casting spells, looking thoughtful, that the collective subconscious begins to rewrite him. The comfy frog who has seen too much. His basic form is now insufficient for the story being told about him. So, he changes. He's upgraded, you might say, to a premium subscription model of himself. Now, theoretically, a human could accelerate this. You could take a frog friend and only surround it with high fantasy, arcane-themed media. You could call yourself a mage, learn a few card tricks, and constantly teach it. This focused, directed narrative acts as a catalyst. The entity doesn't think, my human friend wishes for me to become a wizard. Its essence simply recognizes that the preponderance of wizard data in its immediate environment is the dominant narrative to adopt. The human is just the means of delivery, a live-in content curator. My meme fusion system simply automates and weaponizes this very natural process. My work is a revolution in supernatural taxonomy. I am the Linnaeus of the digital Jungian collective. Others see chaos. I see the food chain. They see an incomprehensible storm of images and jokes. I see the predictable currents of attention. Before me, it was all sorcery and guesswork. Whispers of mimetic resonance. Now, it is a science. We can chart an entity's life cycle, predict its interactions, and most importantly, design its successors. This is the future, not us bowing to these quaint spirits that bubble up from the collective id, but us taking their power and building something new from their bones. They are a resource pool of pure, undiluted belief, and it is my sacred, scientific duty to tap that well, for humanity's benefit, of course, and for a considerable profit, naturally. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a Putty Blue Piscine adaptation to observe. I'm calling it the Koi Pond. I think it will be very big with upscale hotels.
Dr. Greist, your public presentation was theatrical, but the core thesis aligns perfectly with Phase 3 objectives. The narrative of scientific benevolence is holding. The church is outraged. Good. Keeps them chasing shadows. And the venture wings are salivating over the koi pond IP. However, the demonstration subject, Wojak 0047-Delta, the one you turned into a puddy-spouting NPC on live holofeed, has begun exhibiting unexpected behavior that threatens containment. Observed symptoms, time-stamped 48 hours post-graft. Subject no longer emits simple puddy loop, now alternates between puddy and a distorted low-pitched NGMI per puddy, NGMI. Grey pigmentation has begun liquefying into a thin yellow slime at the extremities. When exposed to mirrors or reflective surfaces, subject attempts to press its face against the glass and whisper, "Fren," before reverting to repetition. Aura spike detected. Momentary 7.3 to 11.9. Briefly entered low Archon threshold during a 3 a.m. NGMI puddy episode. Preliminary theory from the parasitology wing. The puddy bloop directive was not fully digested. Instead of total copy-pasta overwrite, we have achieved an unstable remix state inside a variant host that still retains residual despair narrative. The two loops are now fighting for dominance in real time. Translation in plain terms. We didn't create an obedient NPC drone. We created the first documented case of Doomer Puddy, a self-aware entity that knows its existence is meaningless repetition, yet cannot stop. Current containment status. Subject has been moved to Isolation Chamber 9, the old brain rot tank. Audio feed is now muted lab-wide, because prolonged exposure induces suicidal ideation in 40% of D-class observers and uncontrollable giggling in the remaining 60%. Recommendation: 1. Immediate termination and memory hold the specimen. Safe. Boring. 2. Allow the hybrid to stabilize and see if it naturally resolves into a new, stable race. Your preferred option, obviously. 3. If it crosses Aura 15, we evacuate the facility and trigger protocol LOS.jpg. Nobody wants that. You're cool, Doctor. But whatever you decide, do it fast. The entity just learned to spell "help me" using pudding droplets on the chamber floor, and the night shift is starting to hum the tune. Deputy Director Vallis. P.S. The investors loved the koi pond pitch. They're asking if we can make a limited edition rare variant that says omakase instead of puddy. I told them we'd look into it.